Hookups television show. This is Dr. Barbara Young, your host, and this is a show that features up-close and personal interviews with guests from all walks of life who share their stories about unexplainable blessings, successful events, and extraordinary miracles and encounters that can only be of God's hookup. You will receive hope, enlightenment, encouragement that will feed your spirit and your soul. Now, to my guest today. Let me welcome LaDawn Townsend, CEO, Chief Revenue Growth Expert, or Strategist, I should say, with the VOS Group. Welcome, LaDawn Townsend, to the VOS Hookup Show.
Thank you, Dr. Young. I am so excited to be here today.
Well, we're excited to have you. I mean, you have done a lot, lady. And, one of the things I love about you immediately was I made the CEO of my company, but God is my CEO. That got me. I was, a woman after my own heart. So share what happened in 2014 where you were surviving a whole department-wide layoff.
Yes, I'm glad we're jumping in right there. So in 2014, I received a phone call that nobody wants to receive. And that was the phone call from my senior managers and our senior manager that they had been let go. My coworkers had been let go. And guess what? I had been let go as well. And in that moment, many people asked me, were you upset? Did you want to cry? And it was none of the above, because I knew that that was my opportunity. I knew it was an answer to prayer that I had been praying to get off of the corporate 20-year cycle of just going up and up and up. And so in that moment, I made a decision. I was going to grab hold of what some would see as a depressing situation and make it my opportunity. And that birthed my company, the VOS Group, where we are a revenue growth strategy firm located here in Los Angeles with corporate clients in India and Africa and expanding to the Middle East and Asia. And so it was the beginning of an amazing story, but it took that moment for me to decide of how I was going to see that situation.
Well, LaDawn, one of the questions I always have is like, God doesn't just jumpstart us off into something. There's grooming that takes place. Mm-hmm. So what do you believe when you look in retrospect, what grooming did you receive because of your obedience that led you to be able to segue to become the CEO of VOS?
I love that question. So I always tell people, be aware of the small, still moments where you're being instructed to do something. So be aware of when you have the signs that are coming, because those signs could be preparing you for what's next to come. And so here I was in November 2014 with a desire to be able to have my own business, but I didn't listen to the signs that the Lord was giving me before in order to properly prepare. So here I was with an idea, but I had no vehicle to get me along the road of provision. And so that took me longer to get there. And so years before that, I come from a family of entrepreneur parents. And so I remember clearly playing at being an entrepreneur for a good 15 years before that moment. I would go to conferences, read books, try and open my own services, all this and that. But I never really took the momentum and action needed in order to make it really sustain and go. And so when the opportunity came that I should have had the vehicle ready, I didn't, because I played at being an entrepreneur and I listened to the signals, but there's one thing of listening to when God tells you to do something, and then there's taking action.
So that's a message that you can say to some of the people who are out there who are going through this pandemic and cycle. Listen to the signs, pay attention. Oh my goodness. So actually, it led you to have to do a lot of makeup work.
Yes.
In order to become. So, I mean, did you kind of cry sometimes and say, Lord, why didn't I listen?
It was a lot of humbling. And I think as entrepreneurs, we have to remember ourselves that we are humbled as leaders. To be a good leader, you must be a servant leader to your business, to your clients. That is not a passive role at all. When we think about Jesus, Jesus is the same Jesus that flipped over tables. That he is the same Jesus that is powerful. He's the same Jesus that walked on water, but he was the same Jesus that would listen to his disciples and ask them questions and seek to understand. He knew their heart, and he wanted them to understand his heart. And so God gives us opportunities to redo. I never believe that he just kicks us out the nest and says, I'm never talking to you again. And so what happened is, after I got laid off, I was spinning my wheels. And I remember one day so clearly, God spoke to me and said, I need you to have your own voice with this business. Because I was trying to do things the way the gurus tell you to do them. And I was trying to do a network marketing business at the same time, because I thought if I could be really successful in this network marketing business, then people would pay for my services, forgetting the fact that God gave me the grace and strength to have a 20-year corporate career and save corporations over $1 million in payroll and work with Fortune 100 companies. So I immediately discounted who I was. And so in that moment, sitting at a park, and I just said, Lord, it's not working. What do I do? And he told me, I need you to have your own voice. And that was the beginning journey where I made the next best investment in myself outside of coming to the Lord, was saying, okay, I couldn't get any loans, Dr. Young, like none. Like, I got turned down over 30 times from grants, loans, all of the above. But I knew I could invest in myself, and I knew I brought a skill set to the table. So with a resume and with a prayer, I shipped myself to Austin, Texas, in order to find a job, because I knew if I could just get enough money to invest in my business and learn what I needed, I could make it grow. And so after being laid off and even trying to find a job in California, where I'm from, and trying to start the business, it wasn't until that moment that I decided to listen to what God was saying. And he was telling me, have your own voice. And what people may have looked at as something bad of, oh, you're going back to work. No. You see, the job was the investor in my business, because I knew I would show up at the job. I would do 150%. I was going to go in and wow them. And I did. And when you physically move yourself with nothing but savings and your luggage to another state to find a job, that's commitment. And I believe that when we step out in the water, God doesn't meet us on the shore. He meets us when we start stepping into the water, and he meets us in the deep water, but we've got to get in the water. And he did. I landed on a Tuesday. I got a job on a Thursday. And the next probably year and a half, 2 years, I spent 70 to 80 hours a week in an amazing job with great people. And I worked my business 40 to 50 hours a week. I took Sundays off, literally. And that was my moment of the redo. But more than that, it was God's grace saying, I'm still with you. And now we're going to do this right.
Is that which I want a lot of the viewers out there, particularly some of my younger women and men, it takes time. Two things out of your message. One, you had to step out of your comfort zone, leave where you were born and what you knew about, California. Take what we call in the spiritual world a leap of faith. Savings and a luggage, but you made it work. But the thing with Don is that commitment of 70, 80 hours a week working for someone else, giving it your 100%, and look at what God did to give you favor. So you got to tell me the next chapter, my dear. Giving it your 100%. And
the next thing that happened after that, I would love to say that was just all success. And I love that you said, Dr. Young, that you have to give it time, because I forgot that I had to give it time. You know, when you're an A+ personality, a D dominant spirit, like you just, like when people talk about Deborah in the Bible and women that were walking and working beside Jesus, I can relate to them because they were on the battlefield. You know, T.D. Jakes has this saying in one of his books, stop asking God for a table when he's given you an axe and a forest. And I'm that axe and forest type person. And so in that redo, when I was really going through, I made a commitment that I was going to be serious about it. And this was at the time, I was in my late 30s, a single woman, still going on my own health weight journey. I could tell that in a whole nother day and show. I've lost almost nearly 200 pounds in the past 6 years. And because God was preparing me even then, the road I have you going on, I need you to be fit. I need you to be healthy. And I did that with food and vitamins and exercise, nothing outside of the normal, but it was preparing. Even years before the layoff, he was preparing me for that. And so when I was in the midst of, when people ask, okay, what did that look like? My job was amazing. It was just a great place to learn and grow. And so for me, I had no money for marketing and I had a huge fear of sales. So I said, okay, well, I can't do ads and I don't really know how to do that, but I know how to talk to people. So before work, I would make cold calls to the UK at 4 a.m. to try and offer my services. And when I got home from work, I would cold call Hawaii because they were 3 hours behind. So all I knew is if I could get on the phone and talk to people, I knew I could make this work. What God was really doing, and I believe this, God does test us to a degree, and it's not a bad thing, but I believe he does it to say, are you really ready for what you're asking me for? Are you really ready for the rooms I'm going to put you in? When we see people on TV and they may be evangelists or pastors or celebrities or sports figures or news anchors or whoever it is, there is a mantle that is on them if they're walking in their purpose, if that's what they're called to do. But it takes a grace to sustain your position. And what people may look at as a down situation, what if that's the moment that God is building the muscle within you? Do you think it was easy for me to get up at 4 a.m. and cold call these people? And I had to invest in money in a long distance plan in order to make the phone calls. And there were days and weeks where nobody would answer the phone. And I went through $50 and then $100, but I was willing to do it in order to make sure. And so in that time, I wish I could tell you everything was rosy, but it wasn't. Within that period of a few years, I invested nearly $100,000 in my business, all from bootstrapping it, because I went back to work. I reduced my expenses. I spent almost 40 to 50% every month in my business. And so over 2 years, I made, drum roll, $800. That's not profit. I don't need a calculator to figure that out. But here's what I knew. I said, okay, we need to figure out the blueprint. How do we make money? And when I finally figured that out, what God was doing, all of that time where I was being brought through what I thought was the wilderness, just like the Israelites. And they were like, where are you? And God brought manna from heaven, manna out the middle of the desert for them to eat. What God was doing in those few years was showing me how I could create a revenue growth blueprint for my business. And that is the signature system that I teach companies on today, whether they are a small mom and pop shop or whether there are retail client that does $250 million a year US. It's the same system, but I wouldn't have discovered the system if I didn't go through the valley.
Well, and true, going through the valley to find the system. I like that. That should be the title of your next book.
I'm writing it down. Find the system. Or no, going through the valley.
To find the system.
I like it.
But then when you got over into the promised land, there still was a battle.
Dr. Young, you better preach it.
There was still a battle. You got the blueprint. Now you're over in the promised land and you find out you got to fight the tribes that are over there. Okay. New level. I always say new level, new devil.
There you go. There you go. You're right.
So, but were you groomed for that or you were ready? Because remember, you said, all I need is a forest and an axe. I'm the woman with the forest and the axe. So, lady, what did you do next, LaDawn?
Well, when you're in that forest, there are different types of trees. You have trees that are small And then you have very big redwood trees that just the trunk of the tree itself it could be 16, 20 feet around. I'm just, using that example. It's pretty big. You can't wrap your arm around it. You need a few people to wrap themselves around it. And so what I came to understand is when it comes to success, when it comes to as we're growing, we need to not compare our behind the scenes story with someone else's front page headline, because you don't know what they had to go through to get there. And you don't know if their success is really success. The only thing you can balance is what you're going through. So what I had to realize was when it comes to setting goals, that when you set a goal within your organization, number one, when we speak it, first, let me back up and say, you first have to make sure you're walking in your purpose. A purpose is very different than what you're passionate about. Let me be very clear, because in the beginning, the purpose of my business was just to do process improvement. And then along the journey, God would say, I want you to do this. I want you to do that. And a lot of it didn't resonate with me. And I said, well, was that really you, God? But I knew it was. But for me, I couldn't see it. So we have to be walking in our purpose, and then be open to the Lord to expand what our purpose is, and to pray and ask, Lord, show me what I'm not seeing. Expand my spiritual faculties, expand my mindset so I can run with you. I'm aligned with you. And it's not going to happen in a second. It's a journey. So even as you're going on the journey, keep asking, okay, Lord, you have to walk by faith in the things that you don't always understand. And when we're walking by faith in that, and when we're really open to the Lord showing you, I'm telling you, one day it'll all click. And then you'll say, oh, now I get it. Okay. But if you were not obedient in the beginning and just saying, Lord, I may not get it all. I know you know me. I know you know my heart. I know I'm not trying to be disobedient. I'm going to roll with you, and you'll show me. I'll figure it out. It'll come together. I'll understand it. And that was my journey.
Well, it was truly a terrific journey. And I can't thank you enough for sharing with the guests today, the listeners, because you have said so many steps, that people actually, I hope, will listen to the show or download it later. Be sure to share with your friends, because she's given some very important steps today. And in terms of growth and success, one of my last questions, and I hate this is going by so fast, is that when did you realize that you were growth strategist, not just into growth, but a growth strategist, because that's two different roles?
Yes. So it really happened a few years into my business when I was talking about processes and sales. And the way that I see process improvement is all focused on the client experience. The client experience is not just for those that are clients. It is who you want to be a client. When you nail down your client experience, it will then dictate what your marketing is, your branding, your sales, all of that. So when I would work with a company and come in and overhaul them, we would talk about client experience. And the way that I see it, it's holistic. So in order to have the purpose of your company, and for everyone that's there, I hope you're taking notes, your obligation as a business owner is to have a fiscally fit business. And I would talk to companies about this, and they would say, okay, well, we're getting sales, but they weren't really, when they got the sale, they weren't really seeing the profit on the back end. So I had to start talking about, okay, let's grow revenue. And the reason we started talking about not just revenue, but growing revenue is when you think of a seed that grows, when you think of a plant that grows, you plant the seed and then it grows, but you don't want it to just die. You don't want it to wither off. You want it to grow higher. You want it to be sustaining as a healthy plant. And so revenue growth is the core of everything we teach, because if we're focusing on revenue growth, that means what is your sales and marketing plan, your process improvement plan, your leadership plan? Who are weak links within your organization that maybe you just need to pour into? What's your budget? What are you spending? And for those of you that lead an organization, what is your mindset as a leader? So I started talking more about revenue growth, this concept, and then it just made sense and aligned, and people could understand our methodology.
And this is very good. One of the points that you bring out too, in all of this in terms of companies and leaders, speak to a little bit about the leader he or she who needs to know who they are.
Mm.
Speak to that. And more importantly, who they are not.
Oh, I love that. You know, when we look at the Old Testament, I'm reading through I'm trying to read through the Bible within a year. I think I'm behind on schedule, but that's okay because I'm getting so many nuggets in each one. But when you think about the Old Testament and Elijah and Elisha,
Yes.
they both strong prophets. One was a higher rank, let's say, and one was a student of that prophet, and then became on to be even a powerful prophet. They had to understand what their call was first, and then how to fulfill that call that's unique to them. One thing that I sadly see within the global Christian church, I'll say, is we've replaced understanding our individuality with the Lord with what we think pop culture tells us in the church to be. Or we're missing the disconnect and asking God, who do you want me to be? What is my message? We're even missing talking to God and praying to God. And there's a whole, there's different beliefs that believe in that or not. That's not the point. God is alive and active today. He is the same God that parted the Red Sea. He is the same God that struck Egypt and said, let my people go. He is the same God that heals the lepers. He is the same God that spoke to Mary. He's the same God that sent angels to answer Daniel's prayer. He's the same God. So in order to really be a leader, you have to be at peace and aware of who you are. And I think a lot of the times, like for me, I ran unintentionally at being this leader because I thought I was supposed to look a certain way. I thought I was supposed to do this. When I did my first photo shoot, I was a size 24. Now I'm going to show up either way because I'm the woman with the axe in the forest. And I will never forget my friend who's a photographer out of London. She says, I have people who, when they want to work with me, they bring me sometimes your picture and says, how can I look confident like that woman? Now, for me, I had a goal. Remember, I wanted to make money in my business and I needed pictures. So my size did not matter whether I was a 24 or thank you, Jesus, I'm a 12 now with a really good pair of Spanx. It didn't matter to me. I was just going to show up. So you have to know your purpose. And I would say the best investment you can make in yourself right now as a business owner, regardless of the stage of business you're in, just started in for 10 years, 30 years, is to take time over the next few days and get quiet with the Lord, away from your desk, away from your office, however you can, and ask the question, God, what do you want me to do with this business? Because we're the CEOs, but he's our CEO. I can't tell you the number of times where I'll have to pray about a situation or a customer or a strategy or something's not going the way it is. How do I do this? What should be done? That's the first question. The second question is, what is my message? What's my disruptor statement for the market? When I really got clear on that and I understood that I was here to be a disruptor and not your friend. If we get a friendly relationship, that's great, but I'm here to disrupt the status quo, to say this is how you build a strong business that's sustainable. So that way you're never like me in 2014, where they had to use laying people off to make budget. And so that's what I would really say is you got to get clear on your purpose and be open to hearing what God is going to tell you, because he will. Or we can just struggle and he's just, standing there like, I'm here to help you, but you've got to let the door open. It's pretty much how it is.
Well, I really want to thank you for sharing. Like I said, you have given so many nuggets to the viewers out there. And I thank God for 2014 because it forced LaDawn to change her whole life.
Yeah.
Step out into the deep. But the investment that she made in herself, but more important, the investment the hookup with God and keeping him as the main hookup and the guide. So I want to share to you listeners out there, if you don't know who he is, ask God, show me who you are. Help me. I need help. I need to be a growth strategist, or I need to be a better leader. I need to be a better mother. And if you could help LaDawn, who is a size 24, not that weight, but the fact of it is you could not use her unhealthy. So the thing is, He's interested in you physically, spiritually, mentally, and he loves you. So I want to thank you, LaDawn, for being on the show today and just being the exemplary woman of faith. And I wish you all of God's blessings. And may you continue to read that Bible and go through, because I'm doing the same thing. And you find all these little new nuggets. So for good reading, folks, pick up a good Bible. They're on your app. You can even download the Bible app on your phone. And so there's no excuses. So I really want to thank all of you viewers who tuned in today. Thank you. And remember, God is in the hookup business. Don't forget it. He's hooking you up right now. So thank you to all of you out there. And I want to say to you, have a very blessed Friday. LaDawn, you have a blessed weekend. And I'm going to see you again very soon.
Yes, Dr. Young. Thank you so much for having me on today.
My pleasure.